so I started racing catamarans in 1990. That's kind of when I switched to catamarans, on a couple occasions and this and that and the other, but still raced excuse me. I started racing catamarans in 1999. Okay. Also had V-bottoms. Now the first catamaran that I know of that showed up at an offshore race was Paul Cook, and it was called Kudu, and it was an English aluminum catamaran. And I remember that we had a run race where we actually raced out, went around the island at Catalina, and then spent the night there, and then continued the race the next day. So all the families came over on the Catalina deal, and and so it was fun. And so, but he had to take the boat back to Long Beach because he couldn't leave it in the water; it would sink.
Really,
because it leaked through all the rivets.
Oh wow!
And so yeah. And so anyway, that was the first catamaran, and now that was Betty Cook's husband.
Really?
Right. So, and she was racing a boat at the time called Mongoose, and it was I think it was an old Bertram, but really cool boat. And in their divorce, part of what she got was the race team, and that's how she went from there. And that's cool. And she and a whole bunch of the people, Dick Ganton, Reggie Fountain, and all those guys back in that day. In 1983, we had a Bob Norskog put this on a Golden Gate to Spruce Goose chase, a race, great race, and it was everybody had to run the same kind of boat. Bob orchestrated with Mercury that everybody would get the same 370 packages with TRS drives, all sealed, and all that stuff. We raced from San Francisco to Long Beach, and it was a 4-stop deal. So you'd go from San Francisco to Monterey, from Monterey to Morro Bay, spend the night, then to Santa Barbara, and then down to Long Beach. And we had a party that night in the Spruce Goose Dome.
Oh wow!
When we got there.
That's cool. I can see how you guys got all this camaraderie between you. All the teams when you have to stay the night at different places and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. So we did things like that. Bob, each of the companies, it was 10 companies that entered the event, and they all had well-known, racers, in them. I think Carl Coster was one of the boats. I can't remember everybody. Now Betty Cook was, of course, and so and Reggie Fountain, he was in a boat. And so anyway, the day we're supposed to do this thing, it is foggy. I mean, we're talking San Francisco foggy, can't see your hand in front of your face. We went anyway. Remember, no GPS, no cell phones.
And these are all open boats, right?
All stand-up open boats.
Yep.
And I don't know how they all made it. But my brother and I had a 39 cigarette, the cam boat. We brought it full of fuel, and we were going to be the chase boat all day, to help people that are in trouble and all that kind of stuff. We spent the whole day out in the ocean looking at white. I mean, you couldn't see anything, but we were able to manage it and everything. And so we've been out on the ocean all day with 50 feet visibility at the most.
So you haven't seen anything but just white fog all day long.
White.
That's an eerie feeling, even on a lake.
It is. And so, but I've been keeping track the whole day of where we've gone, at what distance, what direction, everything. And I got a chart and I'm marking all this stuff. And okay, we got to go to Morro Bay. And so, that light is bright.
You're getting sunburn on your forehead.
I'm getting sunburned. Yeah. So anyway, we go to Morro Bay. We stop out in the ocean, and I says, okay, as far as I'm concerned, we're right here. We need to go on this heading for 55 miles, and we're going to be in Morro Bay. So I said we go 60 miles an hour, so it's a mile a minute. So it should be 55 minutes, right? So we're going along, and I'm going, we should be there right now. We should be there, and nothing. Next thing you know, we're in the surf.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we go, whoa, and we turn around, and I go, run parallel to the waves. Parallel. we're right here. We just passed it. We ran back parallel to the waves the other way and pulled it right into Morro Bay.
Oh my gosh. It was still foggy, I take it.
We got to Morro Bay. There was like a wall right there at the Morro Rock.
Wow.
And you thought we showed up there. See, Bob had a float plane, and he was flying and landing in marinas. And he had all the clearance to do all this stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Bob, with all the racing that you've done, the Grand National, the Parker Enduro offshore, which is your favorite? What was your most enjoyable to run?
Let me fix that light. Hold on a second.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably going to be hard for him to pick one out. So what's the most memorable race that when you look back, it's like, thank God I got that one, or man, that was the one that you remember the most?
Well, yeah, the Parker Enduro is a special challenge. And, to run that race for 7 hours and actually finish, because you have to finish to win. If you're not running at the end, you didn't run.
Yeah.
You could run all but the last 1 minute and you didn't run. So,
yeah.
So it's, and I had a situation where we were leading the race. You had to pass the start finish line after, this would be my agony of defeat one. You had to pass the start finish line after 3:00. And I was in first place. And I had a guy behind me that I was trying to keep behind me. I had him about a quarter mile behind me. I'm just kind of, watching. And when I get close to the pits, they could tell me on the radio where he's at. I came through the start finish line at 2:59:30.
Oh, you had to do another lap.
14 miles.
Oh my gosh.
So, when you got to do 14 more miles, you start thinking about, you hear everything.
Yeah. So was he more than 30 seconds behind you?
He finished right after 3:00.
Oh.
So I went all the way down to Blue Water and all the way back up. And there's a place called Branson's, which is about a quarter mile from the finish line. Snapped a prop shaft in half right there.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And you get 30 minutes after 3 to pass the finish line. And the crew came down there and we're trying to band-aid that prop shaft together. Anything. And we're also going upriver. And so
against what's the current on the river? About
5 to 6, depending on how much power is being used. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, you can paddle. Okay. So, and you have to be under your own power. And so I never made it. Never got. Yeah. So I ran 7 hours, and it's the same as staying home.
Oh, yeah.
And
a quarter mile from the finish line. Yeah. But if you'd have been 30 seconds slower the lap before, you'd have won.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So that would be the agony defeat.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I've won so many different world championships in different classes, and of course national champions, and so there's, winning a world championship is a single event. Winning a national championship is a season of events, as you know.
That's what Myrick said too.
Right. So to me, that is as much, if not more, of accomplishment than having a great day on one day.
Yeah, exactly.
So the people that win the national championships, I have a lot of respect for. And even the whole crew, the transport that it takes to get the boats there, and all that. And especially when you're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
You got equipment scattered all over the country.
I complain about going from Missouri to Florida. I can't complain about California to Florida.
Yeah, well, we used to leave the Supercat in Fort Myers when we were running the Florida group, and I'd leave it up in St. Clair when we were running up in that area. So it helped a little bit, fly back and forth, but all of the work that we would do on the boat is on the road.
Yeah.
And testing and all that kind of stuff. So it would be, on the road, and the people always accuse me of testing more than I raced, which is probably true, but with good success. So the favorite, I've been inducted into the Hall of Champions, and that's an accomplishment because there's a criteria that's established, and been inducted in the Hall of Champions a few times, I think. And congratulations, you just were. And
yeah,
it's a neat event.
Tyler and I.
Both of you guys are
yeah. So those are all things that you do as a matter of accomplishment. And like you, I was a long time racing two boats, at least at every race, get out of one, sometimes exchange on the water when they're going past each other,
I've done that a few times.
Right. So, I look back at probably one of the most memorable races. Had I not won, it would have still been memorable, but I did. Was the Orange Beach, Alabama race against Motley Crue.
Yeah, I was there watching that race. It was unbelievable.
It was crazy rough. I mean,
what year was that?
I 06, 05?
Yeah, somewhere in there. No, it was before. It was before that.
Supercat.
Yeah, it was Supercat.
Light,
it was Cat Light, and it was probably in 08. There was 11 boats in our start, and we got crossed up at the start, damn near crashed, and it ended up like 7th in the first turn.
Yeah.
And Paul's about ready to throw in the towel. Oh man. I said, don't you worry. We got this, because that boat was in good balance, and that was the main thing. And
the Motley Crue boys were tough to beat back then.
They drove that thing way over their head. And
it'd come back no hatches on it and shit. You'd be like, what happened?
We took off, and one by one, we started picking them off. And I mean, we're talking just brutal water. In fact, the buoy that was in the beach was in the breakers.
Yeah.
It was actually breaking sometimes over the buoy. It was just nasty.
It sucks to turn.
There are some really good pictures that were taken that day from another photographer that was just amazing. And I can't remember his name right now, but we started picking them off.
Jamie, that Jamie guy?
No. It was a guy, an English guy.
Oh, really? And
we took off, and we come up, and now we're in about 5th place, and right in front of us is the Reliable Carries with Chastelet, and I think little R was throttling it that day.
I see. Yep.
Yeah, and they stood that boat up in front of us. I mean, so high. And it came down, landed on the side, and then stuck and took off in another direction. And to the we got them.
Yeah.
Got them. So
mistake.
One by one, we would get up, and pass somebody, just because our boat was in great balance. And of course, we have a lot of rough water experience from being on the West Coast and all that stuff. And so, on the second to the last lap, we passed everybody. Now we're up on Motley, and they're basically doing everything they can because they know we're coming. And we get to the last buoy on the second to the last lap. In other words, we got to pass the finish line one more time after that buoy, and then we got to come around again. And I told Paul, I said, I'm gonna stay wide, stay right here on the hip where they really can't find us. And I says, when you get to that buoy, we're gonna Tom Cruise this thing, Top Gun it.
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
And so, we flew in the air, and they turned, and we chopped it and drove it right through the rooster tail and came out on the other side. And that's where that really famous picture is, with the two boats flying in the air, right next to each other. Well, that's where that picture was. Right after we passed them there, we go down that front straightaway, and I'm looking at my mirror, and I can see the bottom of that boat. I can see the sides of it and everything. And we're going as hard as we can possibly go. It was like, I don't care if anything falls off that boat, we're going, And so we got, and they're doing everything they can to catch us. I mean, I can't believe how loose they were running that boat in that water, and which probably didn't help them. You got to keep that nose down. And so we came around through the whole course, and everything came around that same buoy, and they were going to try to do the same thing on us. But they hit a big wave and went over the buoy.
Oh, jeez.
They flew over it and landed on the wrong side. So they had to go pick it up.
Oh, man.
But they weren't going to catch us anyway. But we won that race, and it was like crazy, and we pulled it. And, if you know Paul Whittier, he's a man of a few words.
Yeah.
And so we pulled into the infield, and he looked at me and he goes, "You're effing crazy."
Yeah.
And so I said, that was pretty cool. So he goes, wait a minute, we got a motor knocking. And I go, hit the throttle. No, we don't have a motor knocking. They're all good. Everything looks good. No, there's a motor knocking. And I go, no, there's not. And he goes, oh, his heart was beating so hard it was banging in his helmet.
Yeah.
The motor.
Yeah.
That's
great.
So that's one of the memorable races. There's obviously been a lot of them. One of the last times that we raced against JR Noble, we and Grant was throttling for him at the time, and we actually ran touching gunnels around the course, and the newspaper in Key West had a picture of us literally side by side, glued to each other, and we were like 3 feet ahead of them.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell the story. My first year in Supercat with the Jimmy John's boat, I'm down there in Key West, and it's rough between 1 and 2, and I've got a new driver with me. I'm throttling, and I'm just thinking, man, this sucks to be out here. I wish I had a bigger boat. And all of a sudden, here comes Bob blowing by me in a smaller boat, just leaves me in the dust. And I'm like, well, fuck. I obviously don't know what the hell I'm doing out here.
Well,
so, but when he's talking about balance, that's exactly what he's talking about, because
right.
It doesn't
You'll never see my boat with the nose.
boat.
You never see my boat with the nose in the air.
Yeah.
You can't go fast with your nose in the air, and you don't have control, and you don't know what's going to hit you next.
This is the picture that you don't want. Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, that's such a cool picture." I'm like, "That's a fucking terrible picture."
Yeah, so it's the thing is you're right, and the problem with that kind of a shot is that you don't know what's going to hit you next.
Yeah,
and so you lose all your visibility. So when you're a good offshore throttleman is looking like 100 yards out all the time. And so you know what's coming, and you got to find out what's coming next.
Yeah.
And so if you look at any time that I'm racing a boat, that sun and gun's level. And there's a fine line between level and tripping. But you're a lot more likely to stuff a boat if you got that high nose angle and you come down on the transom. You're a lot better,
and then there's a point to where you can have it too on the nose and it bow steers, and then a boat that's got a little bit better setup, it just leaves you. And we've been trying to figure that out with the new MCOM boat in comparison to last year's MCOM boat or the year before's MCOM boat. So
you guys are having to relearn a boat every year, and
I gotta learn a new one this year too. So
yeah.
Well, Bob, one of the things that we've asked other people, and I'm sure you have amazing insight, is what's the biggest tip you can give somebody to drive a cat properly, especially somebody coming out of a V-bottom?
Yeah. Well, I honestly believe that the best canopy boat, people that race in canopies, were also racing not in a canopy. In other words, out. And because you get that sense, if you ever think about this, when you're driving on the freeway, you actually, if you pass somebody going a certain speed, you just kind of know that you can pull in front of them because everything is staying the same, unless a guy does a road rage on you and doesn't want you to pass him, But
gasses it real hard when you pull up next to him.
But when you're in a cockpit, you get used to being enclosed, but you have to be, the things that you learn when you're not enclosed give you more awareness when you are enclosed in a boat. So, we stood up in all the V bottoms that I raced until I built the Woody boat. And we did a couple A boats and stuff before that, but all the big boats were stand-up boats. I still have that 40-foot fountain that we stuffed in Corpus Christi, but and broke my face. I was really good looking before that, by the way.
Yeah, I wondered what happened.
But I think, all those years of standing up, you don't ever want to be caught with your knees locked.
Yeah.
You always kind of have your knees bent a little bit, and sometimes you end up on the floor. Literally, there's no way you can not do that. You end up on the floor. You're pulling yourself up in the bolster back again, and you definitely don't want to pull your kill switch, because that's another problem. You don't want to shut the engines off when you're running fast. But sitting down,
it's pretty uncanny. Like the two of you are kind of on the same path, right? I mean, you guys, both mechanics and successful offshore racers, and now both of you guys are test team drivers for our Speedboat Magazine, where we do a roundup each year, and you guys come out and we test separate dozen boats, and you each have your own time with the boats to learn it, to feel it, and to extract the most performance out of it. Tell us about that.
Well, I try, of course, the book that we're using now for the testing is basically one that we developed back in the Powerboat Magazine days, and I kind of brought it with me. And it's a validated test. The boats have to go through a certain number of items that not only tell us the performance of the boat, acceleration and top speed and all that, but more importantly, how it handles. And there's a lot of different handling criteria that we want to figure out. And you have to do that with in mind what the purpose of the boat is. You're not going to go out in a big giant V bottom and doing slalom turns like you would in a 26-foot runabout, or even back in the days we tested a lot of towboats and things like that. They all have their own thing. But for the intended use, the whole idea is to evaluate the boats against something that would be like it, and also that it's safe. So I'm really glad to have Myrick as a partner in this testing program. And there was some times throughout my career testing boats, thousands of them, that I didn't have that. And it's so much better for me to have a second opinion that I don't influence. The only time I'll tell Myrick, if I've tested a boat and I expect the same from him, the only time I'll tell Myrick, hey, something's up with this boat is if it could be a safety thing, Yeah. And so I'll
crazy.
Let him know, but sometimes
it's crazy how
sometimes I know he's going to, sometimes I know he's going to really like the boat or really hate it. I'm not going to tell him why, because I want to make sure that it's him or him in his own opinion. And then afterwards, then we'll say, hey, did you have that problem? And I go, yeah, I did. Something like that. But it's funny that we most of the time test separately, except for in some of the boats that are really, really fast and we don't want to, use them up or whatever.
Yeah.
But our numbers are so close. It's like the same person,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's 9.5 times out of 10, you guys are both spot on with one another.
And our opinion is very much alike on installation, because we both do workmanship inspections,
right? And
we're both builders. We're both riggers. We're we both know how to build a boat, and we know how it should be. And I am confident that through all the years of being involved in boat testing and everything, that we have caused manufacturers to get better.
Yeah.
And when it originally started with Bob Norskog, he owned a boat shop, a boat sales facility in Van Nuys. And what started the whole Powerboat Magazine performance trials is because the boats that he was getting from, as a dealer were so horrible. And so he figured that he would do this. It was a competition, and people that would get a Powerboat Magazine award for excellence, whatever it was a sales tool.
Sure.
And we were testing at that time. We were testing that time probably north of 100 boats a year, and and everything you can imagine, offshore runabouts, bow riders, it's everything, just about anything that was powered, of course.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I came out and did a test with you guys. They pulled out the booklet, and I'm like, okay, so we do this to every one of them. And it's like page after page after page after page. And then you're like, yeah, but then, and look at back here, this is workmanship day. And then this day, we're actually going to go out and we're going to run this, the times, the getting planing, and the different speeds and the different, the RPMs to speeds. And then all kinds of things. And it's, it seems at the time a little redundant, but then afterwards you see it printed in the magazine or online, and people can take this information and make a decision on a boat, which is a really cool deal.
Right. We have given some poor ratings, and a couple of them recently.
I get Bob chewed out.
Yeah, he gets me chewed out. See, that's the other reason that I like a partner, because I want somebody to blame. And so, it's nice to validate, and the only other guy that I've had back in the powerboat days, I had Johnny, was working with me,
Thompson.
But this is really cool because we're both mechanic, and I can tell you, not only from that, but from a racer's point of view, the best racers could build their boat.
Yeah.
They understand it, and in my case, I'm also an engine builder. And so I build my own engines. So I know everything about the boat, and there's no mystery whatsoever. So you are aware of what can go wrong, and you just have a better feel. So I would say that
as the guy that's ridden alongside each one of you guys, it's really impressive to watch you guys work and how you guys massage a boat and feather a boat just to get that last ounce of performance out of it, that last mile an hour that won't tick, and then ultimately it does tick.
I almost blew you over once.
Yeah.
But I
tell you what, it's quite a compliment when a boat builder, boat manufacturer, whoever is at the event there with Speedboat Magazine, and they bring like their best prop, and they're like, man, we really got the X dimension right at the max, and they're like, we really want to see what you can do. And you're like,
yeah, right.
Me? It's like, I was like, you didn't go out and do it? They're like, no, we want to see what you guys can do with this thing. You're like,
I've had a few of those over the years. I've had a few of those incidences that they were afraid to do it. They wanted to see what I was going to do. And so, those situations are, you got to just kind of, the way the test is set up, it allows you to learn the boat too. Yeah. So we start out at a certain thing and we kind of work up to, a place, but I'm notorious for finding something that, I don't like handling wise, and then I'll kind of start picking on it. See if it was just a fluke, or if it's something that maybe I should do a little more.
I always tell the guys that are in there writing down the information, whether it's Ray, last time it was Tony Scarletta, I was like, you guys got the big balls. You're the ones riding alongside with us idiots that are just flogging this thing.
Tony Scarletta straps on a blown fuel hybrid, right?
Yeah, I know, but I guarantee you he's sitting over there thinking, who's this guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like I told this before. This is the second time we tried this podcast because I had not great Wi-Fi reception, and we talked about this on the last time we were on, and there's only a few people in the world that I'll ride with. People said, "Hey, come on, I'll take you for a ride." Oh no. Yeah. Because the first thing they want to do is show you how awesome they are. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I go, no, I drive, but Myrick is a guy that I'll ride with. And
I appreciate that. That's awesome. That's quite the compliment.
Yeah. And we've had a couple of really fast rides. One that 35 DCB with the 1550s.
You ever seen Bob at like, we were giggling. It had the 1350, 1550s. It was a windy day in August at the shootout here at Lake of the Ozarks, and it was early morning. We found a bluff where the wind was out of the north, and we could hide behind it from the wind. And we were in 1350 mode, and I think we ran like 160, 165, something like that.
Yeah, and we did most of the test, in that mode.
Yeah,
and then we say, well, let's switch it over.
Yeah,
to 1550,
and
do all the things,
cool part about this, cool part about this boat, it has the 4 fuel tanks in it, so you flip the fuel valves and it goes to the race fuel, which I think it's 112 octane or something like that.
Right,
Sunoco
yeah.
112. And then you go reverse wide open throttle and then put the different keys in, and then because that resets the computer, and then you
put
start
a key
it back
fob
up
in there, right?
Yeah, and then it fires up, and we're like, ooh, that sounds different. Just even on fire up. We're like, that's
right.
cool. This is the first time we ever did.
Then we kind of reproduced some of our acceleration tests, like from 30 to 60 and 60 to 120, whatever. The same test that we did in the 1350 mode.
Yeah, and I'm the one writing down the information, and I'm like so blown away. I'm like, can you believe this? This is nuts. And it's like, we immediately said, well, if we had this, we would only run it in 1550 mode.
Problem is, we used up a little of that guy's warranty that day.
Yeah, the guy from Oklahoma. Yeah.
So
I forget his name. But
anyway,
cool boat.
We started getting that,
John Gibson.
and basically we record speeds at like every 500 RPM or something like this. Well, this also had more RPM in this mode,
Yeah, 7,000.
Finally, I got after it, and I just was holding it down, And Myrick
183.
183.
Yeah.
And until we hit that little gust of wind at the other end of the bluff. And then the boat started going 183 forward and about 20 sideways. But it landed okay, and the boat handled good up there.
Oh, it did. It did.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about them DCBs at high speed, man. They track well.
Yeah, it's partially because they don't have a lot of lift.
Yeah.
They're more like a sled, as opposed to a full tunnel boat in that particular case,
Yeah.
But it was a fun ride. It's memorable to me.
Yeah, I still think about it. I still laugh. And how many times I've told the story. We do this one test with that in 1350 mode. It's 5, 10, 15, 20. And you remember the speed at 5, and then 10 and 15, and then you recall it back to the guy writing down the information, your co-pilot. And I remember it being 20 miles an hour faster in 20 seconds. So I think it was like a 115 compared to a 95 in 20 seconds. So, I mean, it was mind blowing.
This episode of Boats and Bros has been brought to you by Performance Boat Center, where Myrick Coyle is the shop foreman. Myrick, what's happening over there at Performance?
Oh, more than you can imagine. So, paint shop, we're painting some new performance power boats that have showed up, rigging. We're doing some stereo installs and upgrades to some center consoles, and then the rigging of the next performance power boat, the 36, that's going to be Rambo's. And so we got that going on. As you move over to the service department, Chance is in the drive room building drives. Justice is on the phone, just doing what Justice does. So we got that going on. Basically, we just hit a weekend where it's warming up. So from whatever didn't get done, whether it's maintenance or whether it's a re-rig of a boat or whatever, it's a very busy place. So since all that's going on, of course, sales is a huge part of our business. So whatever they need done, whether it's a delivery, an inspection, a mechanical inspection, whether it usually is like, compression checks, leak down tests, drive services, stuff to make sure that a person isn't buying a boat that isn't up to his standards. So, yeah, that's what's going on over there. It's starting to get busier on the weekends. We've had a couple of 70-degree days here, and it starts to get people antsy. I always say it's solar powered, and you can definitely tell Lake of the Ozarks is solar powered. So
that's a great way to put it. So Performance Boat Center with 2 locations to serve you: Osage Beach, Missouri, and South Florida.
We got through all the boat testing and the offshore racing.
Well, here you go, Bob. Yeah. I mean, so speaking of Lake of the Ozarks, you're coming back as the announcer for the Lake of the Ozarks shootout once again for 2023, and they've got some cool stuff planned. Tell us about that.
Well, this year, a few things. They're going to start the racing earlier, like at 8:30 in the morning, and it's going to last longer each day. The notorious 5 mile an hour idle zone, which a lot of people have not been very happy about because it affects leaving the place. And it also, the people that are coming from the Camden that want to come up and run, then they get stuck there and have to idle a boat that's not designed to idle that far, So that has been shortened significantly, that 5 mile an hour idle zone. Also, the time, instead of 1 o'clock in the afternoon where it begins, and this is Saturday only, it's moved back to like 3 o'clock.
That's
so
right.
a guy could come and do his thing and get out. So they've shortened it, but they've also made it later. Now Sunday there's none of that, but Sunday, as it stands right now, there's going to be a kilo event that is going to be for class race boats. In other words, boats that are classified, so that you're racing against, you're actually doing a kilo run against boats that are exactly like yours and going to be weighed and all that kind of stuff. So you could bring, like performance boat, stock outboard and run a kilo. Now, instead of it being a kilometer, they're going to measure the speed for, I think, a quarter of a mile. So that allows us to have an adequate run up each way and an adequate shutdown each way. They're also going to extend the run up area for the shootout further down the lake, so that people don't have to do a circle and everything to come through these are all things that that we've been having meetings on, and I'm really excited about the next step. And we're going to have a new production company this year for the TV show. They're going to be using a lot of drones and stuff like that. And so we're going to, so they're going to be a lot more aerial shots and things like that. We're getting into that. Drones are really getting to be the thing now.
Yeah.
Kind of replacing helicopters a lot. And so
that's great, especially on a course like that, where it's tight quarters. And then a lot of that, most of the shootout is done by volunteers and for charity, which you've always been a big proponent of charity throughout your entire career.
Well, that's it. We're involved in quite a few charity events right now. And of course we have a poker run out here, the Big Cat up in Discovery Bay, which I have a home up there. And, but I was the original sponsor for that event. And it's 21 or 2 years now. And Big Cat is the Lions Club, not catamarans, but a Lions Club. And we 100% volunteers to put this event on, and the whole community is involved, and we're raising north of $100,000 a year for the charities in that event after we pay all our bills and everything.
Yeah, it's a great event.
That's the thing that I like about the shootout. It's a volunteer event, and the amount of money that they're bringing now is like in the neighborhood of $750,000, which is crazy. And
this winter we had the check handing out party at Performance Boat Center, where they had a nice little dinner that Redhead put on, and everybody came over and they started handing out checks. And I had never been to this before. And a lot of people explained the way that they felt about Lake of the Ozarks is like, you see all these beautiful homes and all this stuff right on the water, but if you go 15 minutes away from it, it's not all beautiful homes with people with, necessarily a lot, excessive money and stuff like that. So there's people, small fire districts or ambulance or safe harbor for, different things, and so many different charities. And these people are, whether they're getting $500 or whether they're getting $15,000 for this year, it's crazy. People up there in tears, getting this check from the shootout.
I donated this year to the camp,
Wonderland Camp. That's a really neat deal.
Right. Yep. And, a lot of people don't know about that kind of thing that exists. And we are actually this year at the Desert Storm, myself and Teague Custom Marine, we're orchestrating and conducting the Cruising for a Cause event where we take special needs people on boat rides and stuff like that. And it's
neat.
And if you haven't ever done that, and there's an opportunity to do that also at the shootout. You're going to get more benefit out of it than the people that
that's one of the great things about this community and this industry is that you know, the powerboaters are so generous and they're so willing to give back, you know, and you know, that's why I love being a part of it and seeing such, you know, the Cruising for a Cause and the Make-A-Wish rides and seeing the kids come back off these boat rides with smiles on their faces.
And it's not just kids, it's, you know, but the thing about that is that you get to meet families that have had their life changed forever. Because of a person that's come into their life, and they do it cheerfully, and that is really admirable, and it's amazing. And so we do that. I'm also the title sponsor for the junior lifeguard program here at Castaic Lake, and we've been putting on that event now for since '95, and so it's really rewarding because we have about 400 to 500 kids a year go through this program. And they come out on the other end of this thing as better citizens and with a lot of ability. And you can be starting out at 9 years old until about 17. And a lot of the people go into some kind of rescue, but it's not just water rescue. It's just, you know, all the CPR and everything, the competition. And when you get kids together in a peer group, they're braver. They learn to do. They learn to come out of their shell and
feed off of each other.
I have been, you know, in the community here and had somebody come up to me that's now 28, 30 years old and said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for the junior guards thing. I was in it, you know."
Yeah, that's great.
And so it's a cool deal.
I know that Tiffany Mawson told me that, you know, it's life changing when you go to this Make-A-Wish thing. And Brett Manier told me the same thing, and he's always big into it. This year we had we had UTVs there, we had hot rod cars, we had a helicopter, and we had all these people do the boats, and the kids got to go through. Randy Sissom was there with a 50V with, you know, just taking people out on ride after ride. And when you see these kids and families, because the families get to go along too, you know, getting to experience these things, it is life changing. And to hear some of the stories, you know, the kids, you know, being all jacked up and sitting in a UTV and pumping their arm up and down, and you know, it's just neat stuff. It's heartwarming.
That's awesome. Well, and your favorite area, Bob, is where you keep most of your boats, your 44 Skater, your DCB, your Shiata, your ski boat, and the names of your boat. You know, a lot of people think it's poker run related because you're at so many of the events, but it's not, right? It's something completely different.
I love this story. This is cool to me.
So the first boat that I had after I got out of the Army was a 24 Campbell, and a 24 Campbell in those days would be the same as pulling up with a 42 cigarette at the dock ramp, at the launch ramp, you know, the biggest boat in the neighborhood, right? Yeah. I bought that boat in like 73 or 72, and built it, and when I was in Vietnam, we had a helicopter gunship battalion called the Blue Max. And they saved my butt on more than one occasion when we got into a firefight and we had to get helicopters in to blow up the neighborhood. And so I named that boat, happened to be blue, so I called it the Blue Max.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, and so that was the first one. My call sign in Vietnam was Stack Deck 16. Stack Deck is the D company of the Roving Gambler Battalion, and it was Ace High, Bad Bet, Wild Card, Stack Deck, and Easy Winner, and those are the 5 companies. And then 1 is the first platoon, and 6 was a platoon leader. So that was my name in Vietnam. I was in the 1st Cav Division, long range patrol, and the 1st Cav Division, the patch is a horse head with a line and I'm sure you've seen it before, the Army patch. And so one of my boats is always called Stack Deck 1-6. It's not a poker run name; it's my name. You know, the 5 cards on it are aces of spades, and they're all got the Army patch on them. We carried decks of those, and if we got in a firefight, that's what we would put on bodies. So people would, it's pretty gross, but that's the way it was then.
That's the way it was, yeah.
So anyway, my biggest boat right now is the 44 Skater, and it's called the Roving Gambler, which is the battalion. So that's how those names come about. So I've always got names on a boat that mean something, and usually it's a second connotation. So,
man, you guys had some cool names too. I mean,
right? Yeah.
I'm sitting here I was thinking of trying to have a name for our podcast. I'm like Boats and Bros. I wasn't thinking Stack Deck or Roving Gambler.
I've got another boat. I've got another boat in the fleet right now, and we're all racking our brain of what to call it. Because the Shootout one. Okay, right. The Shootout one. Yeah, boataholic. The Shootout when I first built it was turbocharged, and everything was under the hatch. And when I was on the fire department, as a captain, you'd pull up to a scene, and it was supposed to be a reported fire or something like that. And if there was nothing showing, you would say, OCD Task Force 61, so address, nothing showing. I named that boat Nothing Showing.
Nothing Showing. That's cool. Similar to Sleeper.
Yeah. So nothing showing, no smoke.
Yeah.
So then when I sold it to the guy in Canada, he wanted a blower motor, so I had to put a hole in the hatch, put a blower out through the hatch, right? So on the back of it, Nothing Showing is crossed out with a single line, and it says Something Showing. So that's what the boat's named now, and so. And it's still Something Showing now because I got that big Whipple motor sticking out of the thing.
I remember I think his name was Larry Sears. He had a 36 Skater, and it was obviously a catamaran, and it was called Hollow Point. I was like, that's a cool
That's
name.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm had a lot of gun experience, obviously, in the Army.
Yeah.
I haven't been hunting since then.
Yeah.
You had enough for a lifetime.
Because I just don't think it's fair if you're hitting something, they can't shoot you back.
Yeah.
So, you have to be able to do that. And so, I haven't really, I have some guns and everything, but for different reasons, but I don't go hunting. And
well, we pulled you away from your work early today, so thank you for being joining us on the podcast. Tell us about everything that you do at Teague Custom Marine in Valencia, California.
We have everything but the water.
Right.
That's basically it.
Slogan.
That is our slogan. And, we sell parts that we use. In other words, we build boats, we build engines, we manufacture hardware. All of the stuff that we built has basically come from a need that we discovered. And so we have a massive amount of stainless steel hardware that we manufacture. Most of the boat builders
it's like jewelry.
Yeah.
So we have billet parts, and we have all the stainless steel parts. We have an online catalog or online store. You can buy the online store, even though it's pretty crazy. There's a lot going on. We have a lot of numbers on there. It represents maybe about 20 to 25% of what we have. I mean, because we stock, crankshafts, connecting rods, pistons. If you need something for a big block Chevrolet, it's there.
Yeah.
And we're constantly trying to stay ahead of that. Ordering 16 Sunny cranks at a time. And that's basically all we use in our above 825 horsepower motors. And so,
and a ton of Mercury product.
A ton of Mercury product. We have an awesome relationship with Mercury and Mercury Racing. And we do all kinds of repair and not only repair, rebuilds and all the stuff of their product, but also warranty repair on the outboards and in the and all the other motors, that come in under warranty, whether it be, the things that you're allowed to do on 1100 through 1650s and, or 1550s, and then, or the 860s as well as that. But outside of that, everything else, we're, anything could be done.
520, 540, 565, 700. All that stuff.
I just had a 700, actually 600, just way out of warranty come in. Yeah. And the thing had really low oil pressure. And so it would not always be low, but it was just really weird the way it was acting. So we pulled the motor out of this boat and we thought, maybe the thermostat, maybe something going on with this and one thing and another. And I said, there's something going on with oil pickup in this motor. I guarantee it. We pulled the pan off of that thing, and all the paint that was on the inside of that thing on the pan had come loose, and it was getting stuck up against the pickup.
Oh my gosh!
And the guy, wasn't paying that much attention. He probably ran the thing at 5,000 RPM with 20 pounds of oil pressure. And so we just turned that motor over and changed all the bearings in it. Yeah, without taking the top off.
Yeah,
and just finished that before I came here. So. We got it all back together. We're getting the guy back on the road. The boat's been in 3 other boat shops and nobody could figure out what was going on with it. So,
I mean, I tell you what, at Performance Boat Center, we use so much Teague stuff. The guys out there, Matt, your welders, I mean, from tailpipes to sea strainers to water. I always brag on your water pickups like crazy. I mean,
well, we actually have, we actually started doing that. Skater's been doing it for a while, but we wanted to make it all in one plate and make it so that and so, we started building them, and then, now the latest version, we call it the Johnny Tomlinson version, because he was able to destroy anything. And so, so we call it, for a while, we had 2 different versions of the pickup, and then we just started building them all at the 200 mile an hour pickup.
There you go.
And so that the bottom tube and the flange it goes into it is locked into a slot that's machined, and it keeps it from moving. So we also make the entire part that's in the pickup out of Schedule 40. So it's a lot heavier tubing. And so we haven't had any complaints, but we actually have normal pickups for most manufacturers. And we make, like on the cigarettes, we make them 2 and 3 on one plate, depending on what they're building.
Yeah, we even have the ones where you piggyback them over the top of the engine water pickup and have an air conditioner pickup on the back. That's right.
We build those too, right?
Yeah, that's really cool. That way I don't have to drill another hole in the boat. I just literally order this and it works. And then all of our through holes, you tell the guys like, hey, it needs to be 3 inches long and have a -12 male on it. And then, a diamond, and it comes and it's wrapped up in a piece. You open it up and you're like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah. It would have took me 3 days to make this thing.
You send us a drawing on a napkin. We'll bake it that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, so, and we make, it's not just the performance boats, but we make water systems for formula boats for the big cruisers and all that kind of stuff. And we make different manifolds and things.
We had a twin outboard 450 pontoon boat the other day.
Right.
It was going to be a little while for, I think, 8 to 12 weeks for Mercury to get us a set of propellers. Right. And I told Rusty, I said, call Bob out there. And he had it. They had it. So I saw him show up here the other day.
What was it you got?
I think they were like 25 pitch Max 5s.
Oh yeah.
And it were for a 40 or a 450. Let me think. It went 82 miles an hour. A 450, a pontoon boat with 2 450s on it. Tubby McDonald's out of Eufaula. He's also got some other fast boats through us, but he was, we were happy with 78. He wasn't happy with 78. He said it's got to go at least 80. So,
well, we try to keep 300 or so Mercury propellers on the shelf. Half of that's racing. We might be the biggest stalker on all that stuff, when it comes to the Max 5s and the FS1s and all that stuff.
I'd say you have to be.
You have to be. And
be.
It's really difficult to do now because we have to kind of figure way ahead of time what we're going to need. We're still getting propellers that we ordered last year, and it's 8 months ago. So, so it's just, we understand the program. It's the same way for crankshafts. It's the same way so we try to forecast what we're going to be needing. And this time of year, we'd like to have a full shelf, but we still don't. And it's not only the race props, but it's the stock stuff that's hard to get to. So
yeah. Well,
so,
like said,
and my problem is sometimes you'll end up with 5 lefts and a right. So then you got to buy 5 rates to match the 5 lefts, and then you sell more rights, and it's a never deal. You never.
I know. It's like we'll order like, hey, let's order a couple gear cases, and we'll order them, and then it's never the right one. It's either it needs a dual water pickup or it needs a Sportmaster, and you order them and try to keep them in stock, and unless you have them all, which is tough.
We really love our relationship with Mercury, and especially Mercury Racing, we worked together on a lot of projects over the years, and we're the place that they send people to in our area out there when something's difficult and it's not getting resolved somewhere else. And so we've done that quite a bit. And, I've donated a lot of time to the different boat manufacturers, going out and trying to help them get something dialed in that they're just not accustomed to or whatever. I don't charge the boat manufacturers for that. I don't charge Mercury for that. It's part of what you do,
Yeah.
No.
Well, for as long as I've known you, Bob, you've always been about promoting the industry and trying to better the industry. And so, you've been a legend in the industry, and thank you for your time today. We could go on for hours, so we're definitely going to have you back to continue our chat.
And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get me one of them, what do you call it, lights?
The ring lights.
A ring light, yeah, because as the sun's going down outside here, now the light's changing inside the house, Yeah. But it's probably still going to, the next time we do this, we'll probably have to still do it here, but I'll have a ring light. And then, but I'm going to be at the shop. We're going to have fiber in there in about 2 more months.
Very nice.
Yeah. So we're doing good.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Bob, thank you so much. Myrick Coyle, my co-host here on Boats and Bros. So make sure you guys listen on that. That's what on Apple Podcast, on iHeart Podcast, Spotify, and watch all these videos on Boats and Bros YouTube channel. And this has been Bob Teague, Myrick Coyle, Ray Lee with Speedboat Magazine for Boats and Bros podcast.
This podcast is powered by Speedboat Magazine. Subscribe now at speedboat.com for 9 power-packed print issues a year direct to your mailbox.